morning. As Richard mentioned, CMS has decided to go ahead and make the changes to the way we are documenting our activities of daily living. So hopefully at the end of this program, you will be able to understand the definitions. Excuse me. Yes, you will be able to understand the definitions used for each activity and understand each performance level. Documenting the ADLs. Each area of ADLs have very specific definitions that apply to each, and we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. Identify the actual level of performance and support that actually occurred before completing any documentation. Focus on all of the tasks within the activity you are documenting. And one thing to make note of on this piece is some of the questions are going to have multiple tasks within the question. And so you're really going to want to focus on what you are documenting. Always document to the task that required the most care. That is nothing new. We always want to document to the highest level of care that we are providing so that we're taking credit for the hard work that you all do. Your documentation is often used to determine staffing ratios, residents' need, payment, and staff performance. And that is really, really important. Again, it goes back to documenting the highest level of care. If we're doing that, that gives everybody an idea of how much staff is needed. What is the acuity in the building? What is what are the residents needing? And then payment and staff performance. So that's really, really key. We will review the performance first. The key concepts that we'll be going over is document what actually occurred. Don't document what should or what normally happens every day. And I think that that's really important too, because, you know, we tend to get in ruts. We know that, you know, Mr. Smith is extensive assist every single day, and we just kind of get used to documenting the norm, right? But please, you have to keep in mind that residents are going to be different. They're going to be different working with different staff. They're going to be different throughout the course of the day. Maybe in the morning, they're a little more perky and able to help, as opposed to afternoon or evening when they start to get tired. They may need a little bit more help during the day. They may have been on a new medication, and maybe that medication or treatment for a wound or an incision, something, maybe they're more tired or more groggy, resulting in the need for a higher level of care. Residents' likes and dislikes. That goes back to maybe staffing. Maybe they prefer Mary over Joe, and so therefore they're going to do more for Mary than they would for Joe, and so the documentation is going to vary depending on that. Illnesses. Let's say you have a dialysis patient. In the morning, they're just fine, ready to go. They're able to help. But when they get back from dialysis, they're fatigued, they feel weak, and so their level of care changes then. And then time of day is also important, especially for our dementia folks who in the evenings maybe start to sundown and again need a little more assistance than they did that morning or that afternoon. Now, CMS defines a helper as somebody who is facility staff and who are direct employees and facility contracted employees. A helper does not include individuals hired, compensated or not, by individuals outside the facility's management and administration. Activities may be completed with or without assistive devices. So going back to facility staff, Let's say that you have a family member that comes in and they want to help their loved one with activities of daily living. They want to help them get dressed. They want to help them shower, do some oral hygiene. That, whatever level of care they are providing, that does not count. Either does a sitter. Say somebody, family member wants their loved one to have a sitter all day. Whatever that sitter does, that again does not count. It is simply facility staff who are direct employees and facility contracted employees. Okay, focusing on the performance for each activity. I just want to add in this section that I think that the documentation is going to be a lot easier. I think each area that we're going to get into a little bit later is just defined a little bit better and easier to understand. But let's focus on the performance of each activity. So dependent, which is total assist. The helper does all of the effort. Resident does not help the effort to complete the activity. The key with coding or documenting dependent is that the assistance of 2 or more helpers required for the resident to complete the activity will be documented as dependent. So anytime 2 or more helpers are involved and the resident's not able to help, that is going to be coded as dependent. Substantial or maximal assist, that is defined as an extensive assist, and that's where the helper does more than half of the effort. So the helper is going to do that weight bearing, lifts or holds trunks or limbs, and provides more than half the effort. Partial to moderate assist, helper does less than half. The helper lifts, holds, or supports the trunk or limbs, but provides less than half of the effort. Supervision or touching assist, helper provides with verbal cueing, touching, steadying, or contact guard assist as the resident completes the activity. The assistance may be provided throughout the activity or intermittently. Setup or cleanup, helper sets up or cleans up, but the resident completes the activity. Helper assists only prior to or following the activity. Independent, resident completes the activity by him or herself with no assistance from the helper. Resident refused and not applicable. Not attempted, and the resident did not perform this activity prior to the current illness, exacerbation, or injury. And this is what it will look like on the kiosk for the helpers. So now we're going to get into the definitions of each ADL. So starting with eating. This is going to be the ability to use suitable utensils to bring food and or liquid to the mouth and swallow food or liquid once the meal is placed before the resident. So it's the ability to use forks, spoons, and knives, how they use them, and how they're able to swallow. Oral hygiene is the ability to use suitable items to clean the teeth. So toothbrush, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and actually brush teeth. Dentures, if applicable, is the ability to insert and remove dentures into and from the mouth and manage denture soaking and rinsing with use of equipment. So can they or can they not manage their dentures? Take them in, take them out, put them in the cup for soaking. Are they able to do that? Toilet hygiene. This is the ability to maintain perineal hygiene, adjust clothes before and after voiding or having a bowel movement. If managing an ostomy, it includes wiping the opening but not managing the equipment. So, simply put, that does not include emptying an ostomy bag or a catheter. If the resident is able to wipe off the stoma for the ostomy and perform pericare for catheter, that's what they're talking about there. Shower and bathing is the ability to bathe self, including washing, rinsing, and drying self. It does not include washing the back or the hair. Upper body dressing. This is the ability to dress and undress above the waist, including fasteners if applicable. This includes bras, undershirt, t-shirt, button-down shirt, pullover shirts, dresses, sweatshirts, nightgowns, sweaters, pajama tops, thoracic lumbar sacrum orthosis, abdominal binder, and back brace. Upper body dressing cannot be assessed based solely on donning or doffing a hospital gown. Helper assists with buttons and or fasteners is considered touching assistance. So in other words, if they're able to, put their legs into each pant leg and pull them up, but the helper is happening to pull the zipper up or button, that would be touching assistance. Lower body dressing is the ability to dress and undress below the waist, including fasteners, does not include footwear. That's a completely different section. Helper assistance with buttons and or fasteners is considered touching assistance. Lower body dressing includes underwear, incontinence briefs, slacks, shorts, capris, pants, pajama bottoms, and skirts. Lower body examples are knee braces, elastic bandages, sock or shrinker, and lower limb prosthesis. Definition of putting on and taking off footwear is the ability to put on and take off socks and shoes or other footwear that is appropriate for safe mobility, including fasteners if applicable. Footwear examples would be ankle foot orthosis or an AFO, elastic bandages, orthotic walking boots, or compression stockings. Footwear includes socks, shoes, boots, and running shoes. So compression stockings, Ted hose, we all know how difficult those are to put on. So remember that when coding footwear, if your resident is not able to put on those Ted hose, and you have to do it, then you will code accordingly to that. Okay, mobility. Definition of rolling left to right, and this is in relationship to bed mobility. It's the ability to roll from lying on the back to left and right side and return to lying on back on the bed. And remember, if it takes two people to assist with that, you're going to document dependent. And then the definition of sitting to lying is the ability to move from sitting on the side of bed to lying flat on the bed. And I think it's important to note here that this is speaking of on the bed. It does not include any alternative sleep furniture such as a recliner or a couch. This is referring to the bed only. The ability to move from lying on the back, from lying on the back to sitting on the side of the bed with feet flat on the floor with no back support. Clinical judgment should be used to determine what is considered a lying position for a particular resident. If the resident's feet do not touch the floor upon lying to sitting, the clinician will determine if a bed height adjustment is required. Also here, I think it's important to take into consideration lying on the back to a sitting position. Some people, as you know, like to lie flat on their back. Some people, maybe because of an illness or comfort, like to have their bed raised a little bit or even, straight up. This is speaking to how they're able to go from what's comfortable from them, for them, from their back to a sitting position. Back supports refer to an object or person providing support for the resident's back. Sit to stand is the ability to come to a standing position from sitting in a chair, wheelchair, or on the side of the bed. If a mechanical lift is used and 2 helpers are needed, we're going to document the dependent. Definition of chair to bed and bed to chair transfers is the ability to transfer to and from a bed to a chair or a wheelchair. Chair to bed, bed to chair transfer begins with the resident sitting in a chair or wheelchair or sitting upright at the edge of the bed and returning to a sitting position in a chair or wheelchair or sitting upright at the edge of the bed. That's a lot, isn't it? If a mechanical lift is used to assist in transferring a resident for a chair to bed, bed to chair transfer, and 2 helpers are needed to assist with the lift, then document again, dependent. Definition of toilet transfer, the ability to get on and off a toilet or commode. Again, if 2 helpers are needed, we're going to document dependent. And also just keep in mind that toileting hygiene and toileting transfers are 2 different areas. And definition of a car transfer is the ability to transfer in and out of a car or van on the passenger side. It does not include the ability to open or close the car door or fasten or unfasten the seatbelt. Again, if 2 people are assisting with that, you'll code dependent. Walking 10 feet. This is one standing, the ability to walk at least 10 feet in a room, corridor, or similar space. Again, 2 people, we're going to document dependent.
So that answers the question.
50 feet with 2 turns. Key here is making the 2 turns. If you're walking your resident once they're standing, it's their ability to walk the 50 feet, but they also have to be able to make 2 turns. That is key to this question in your documentation. Again, 2 helpers, we're going to document dependent. Walking 150 feet is one standing, the ability to walk at least 100 feet in corridor or a similar space. Definition of walking 10 feet on uneven surfaces, perhaps outside if you're taking a walk or if you're, excuse me, doing an activity outside of the facility. You'll want to note the ability to walk 10 feet on uneven or sloping surfaces, indoors or outdoors, such as on turf or gravel or an uneven sidewalk. That's what that is. Definition of a 1-step is the ability to go up and down a curb and or up and down 1 step. Picking up an object, this is the ability to bend or stoop from a standing position to pick up a small object like a spoon, something else from the floor. This does not include somebody who's in their wheelchair, drop their spoon on the floor, they bend down to pick it up. This is from a standing position, and that's important to note. If the resident uses a wheelchair for self-mobility and is not exclusively transported by others using a wheelchair, then document the wheelchair. So we have our wheelchair, and we have our scooter. This is not what we're talking about. A scooter is going to be a motorized wheelchair. And definition of wheeling, the ability to wheel 50 feet with 2 turns. Once seated in the wheelchair or scooter, it's the ability to wheel at least 50 feet. And again, we have that 2 turn here. That is key. They have to be able to make on their own 2 turns. while they're doing this task. And 150 feet is once in the wheelchair or scooter, the ability to wheel at least 150 feet in the corridor or in a similar space. And that brings us to the end. I hope that that was informative. Any questions, anybody?
Nobody has questions.
Why? No.